The 7-year-old slid a piece of paper across the mahogany desk. It was covered in stardust marker, purple and pink swirls framing carefully printed words. Daniel Crow, Billionaire CEO, stared at the handmade resume like it was a legal document he couldn't quite parse. "My qualifications," the child said, her voice steady despite her size. "I can ride the bus alone. I know 17 camera lenses by name. I can count money accurately, and I'm very quiet when adults are talking." Daniel's mouth opened, closed, opened again. How did you get up here?" "Security should have. I told them I had an appointment." She pushed a strand of dark hair behind her ear with a gesture so familiar it made his chest tighten. "I need to speak with you about employment opportunities." "Employment?" Daniel leaned back in his chair, studying this impossible visitor. "You're what, 6? 7? And age discrimination is illegal, Mr. Crow." Despite himself, Daniel almost smiled. "Fair point. And your name?" "Nora Archer." She folded her small hands on his desk like she'd attended 100 board meetings. "I'm here because my mother is sick. She needs medicine we can't afford. I've researched your philanthropic activities and determined you're statistically the most likely person in New York to help us. So here's my proposal. I work for you, you help my mother. It's a fair exchange." Daniel felt something shift in his chest, part amusement, part something deeper he couldn't name. "Nora, that's very brave. But I can't hire a 7-year-old. Child labor laws aside." "Then sponsor us. A grant. Whatever you call it when rich people help." Her voice cracked slightly, the adult facade slipping. "Please. My mom is really sick and she won't ask anyone for help, but I'm not too proud to ask, and I figured if I just explained the situation logically, you'd understand that helping us is the right thing to do." Daniel opened his mouth to respond when Nora gestured, and he saw it. The birthmark at the base of her thumb. Small, crescent-shaped, exactly like. His eyes dropped to his own hand. The identical mark he'd had since birth. The room tilted. "Nora," he said slowly, his professional composure cracking. "Your mother's name is Maya Archer?" "Yes." "Do you know her?" "Know her." God, he'd known her. 7 years ago, rain on a terrace, a conversation that felt like coming home. Then nothing. Silence. Disappearance he'd convinced himself was her choice. He looked at this child, this fierce, brilliant child, and did the math. 7 years old. The timeline aligned with terrifying precision. "Mr. Crow." Nora's voice pulled him back. "Are you okay? You look like you're having a medical emergency. Should I call someone?" "Stop whatever you're doing. Right now. Put down your phone. Actually, don't, because you need to hear this. But stop multitasking. Because what you just heard. A 7-year-old walking into a billionaire's office with a handmade resume? That's just the beginning. Picture this. A man who disappeared 7 years ago. A woman who raised their daughter alone. And a child brave enough to do what both adults couldn't. Knock on a door and ask for help. This is a story about courage that comes in the smallest packages. About second chances that arrive with tiny fists and massive hearts. About the sentence that cuts deeper than any business deal. My mother is sick. I can help. But before we dive into how one 7-year-old changed 3 lives forever, I need you to do something. Tell me in the comments right now. Where are you listening from and what time is it? Drop your location and the time. I'm Dr. Mason, and I'm going to be in those comments reading every single response and interacting with you, because this community is about real stories that break us open and rebuild us better. And hit that subscribe button right now. Because this is Dr. Mason Long Stories, where we tell tales about fate, courage, and love that's earned one impossible moment at a time. You don't want to miss a single story. Now let me take you back to where this all began. 7 years before a child walked into an office and shattered a man's carefully constructed world. Maya Archer had never particularly liked fundraising galas. Too much performance, too little truth. But she needed the work, and the event coordinator had called her at the last minute when their photographer canceled. Just capture the candid moments, they'd said. The real connections, not the posed smiles. That, at least, Maya could do. She'd built her small photography business on seeing what others missed, the genuine emotion beneath the social mask. The gala was held at a renovated warehouse in Chelsea, all exposed brick and string lights pretending to be stars. Maya moved through the crowd with her camera, invisible in the way photographers learn to be. She caught a donor's hand squeezing an aged shoulder, comfort disguised as congratulation. A child's foot tapping in boredom while their parents networked. A woman checking her reflection in a champagne flute, adjusting her smile before rejoining conversation. "You're very good at that." Maya turned to find a man watching her work. Tall, probably early 30s, wearing a suit that cost more than her monthly rent. But it was his eyes that caught her. They were studying her the way she studied her subjects, with genuine curiosity. "At what?" she asked. "Seeing people." He gestured to her camera. Most photographers at these things just point and shoot. You wait. You watch. That's because most people don't show you who they are until they forget you're watching. He smiled, a real one, reaching his eyes. That's either very wise or very cynical. Can't it be both? I suppose it can. He extended his hand. Daniel Crow. Maya shook it, recognizing the name vaguely. Something finance-related. The kind of success that made the business pages but not the tabloids. Maya Archer. Would you take my picture, Maya Archer? She raised an eyebrow. You want a portrait at a fundraiser? I want to see what you see. The version of me when I'm not performing. It was an odd request, intimate in a way that made her pause. But there was something genuine in his expression, so she nodded. The terrace. The lights better. They moved outside, where fairy lights tangled with real stars. The city spread below them, infinite and indifferent. Maya raised her camera. Don't pose. Just be. I'm not sure I remember how. Then pretend I'm not here. He laughed. You're holding a camera 6 inches from my face. That's difficult to ignore. Then talk to me. Tell me something true. The question seemed to catch him off guard. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I built a company that employs 3,000 people across 12 countries. I make decisions that affect millions of dollars daily. And most nights, I go home to an empty apartment and wonder if I'm building anything that actually matters. Click. Maya captured it, the vulnerability beneath the success. That's very honest, she said softly. You asked for truth. Most people don't actually give it. Most people don't actually ask. They stood there, the sounds of the party distant, the moment stretching into something neither had planned. Then the rain started. Not a drizzle, but a proper downpour, the kind that soaked through expensive suits and made cameras vulnerable. The gazebo, Daniel said, grabbing her hand and pulling her toward a glass structure at the edge of the terrace. They huddled inside, breathless and laughing, watching rain drum against the roof. Your camera. Daniel started. It's fine. Weather sealed. Comes with the profession. Maya wiped moisture from the lens. Though my shoes are toast. I'll buy you new shoes. You don't need to buy me anything. I know. But I'd like to. He turned to face her fully. I'd like to see you again. Not at a fundraiser. Somewhere real. Maya studied him. This man who'd asked her to capture truth and then offered his own. Somewhere real, she repeated. Do billionaires go to real places? This one would. For you. It should have sounded like a line. Somehow, it didn't. They stood in the gazebo for another hour, long after the rain stopped, talking about art and light and the strange loneliness of crowded rooms. When the party finally ended and they exchanged numbers, Maya felt that rare thing, possibility. A week later, a small package arrived at her studio. Inside, a moon pendant on a silver chain and a note in precise handwriting. For someone who captures light. May you always find it. D. Maya wore it the next day. And the day after. And the day she waited for his call that never came. His number went straight to a generic voicemail. Her texts delivered but received no response. She tried the company, got stonewalled by assistants who wouldn't confirm or deny his whereabouts. After 2 weeks, she stopped trying. After a month, she took off the pendant. After 2 months, she discovered she was pregnant. The pregnancy test sat on the edge of Maya's bathroom sink, 2 pink lines that changed everything. She'd already tried every possible way to reach Daniel. Every avenue led to the same dead end. Either he'd deliberately cut her off, or something had gone catastrophically wrong. Either way, she was alone. Maya's hand went to her stomach, still flat but already different. A life growing that she hadn't planned for, with a man who'd vanished like smoke. She could have made different choices. She knew that. But sitting in her tiny bathroom in Brooklyn, looking at those 2 pink lines, Maya made the decision that would define the next 7 years. She'd do this alone. And she'd do it right. Nora Archer came into the world at 3:47 a.m. on a February morning, screaming her displeasure at the cold and the lights and the general unfairness of being born. "She's got quite a grip," the nurse said, laughing as Nora's tiny hand clamped around Maya's finger. Maya looked at her daughter, this fierce, furious little person, and felt her entire world reorganize around a new center of gravity. "Hello, baby girl," she whispered. "It's just you and me. But that's enough. We're enough." And for 7 years, they were. Maya learned to photograph with a baby strapped to her chest. Learned to edit with one hand while bottle feeding with the other. Learned to survive on 4 hours of sleep and coffee strong enough to strip paint. The 7th floor walk-up in Brooklyn became their kingdom. Small, yes. Cramped when Nora started walking and getting into everything. But theirs. "Mama, what's this?" 3-year-old Nora held up a camera lens, her face serious. "That's a 50mm lens, baby. For portraits." Portraits. Pictures of people. Nora studied it with the intensity that would become her trademark. "Can I use it?" "When you're bigger. For now, you can be my assistant. Want to help me organize the memory cards?" "Yes." Nora's enthusiasm for sorting, organizing, and categorizing was already apparent. She'd spend an hour arranging screws by size or sorting crayons by color gradient. By age 5, she could name every piece of equipment in Maya's studio. By 6, she was making shot lists and keeping track of client appointments in a tiny notebook. "You're raising a very unusual child," Maya's sister Elena observed, watching Nora create an elaborate filing system for Maya's contact sheets. "She's perfect," Maya said. "She is. But Maya, she's going to start asking questions. About her father." "I know. What will you tell her?" Maya looked at her daughter, hunched over her organizing project with complete focus. "The truth. That he existed. That he left. That we're okay without him." "Are you okay without him?" Maya thought about the moon pendant, still in a drawer somewhere. About the gazebo and the rain and the possibility that had evaporated. "I have to be. So I am." The questions came earlier than Maya expected. "Jessie at school says everyone has a dad," 6-year-old Nora announced over cereal one morning. "Where's mine?" Maya set down her coffee, preparing for this conversation she'd rehearsed 100 times in her head. "You have a biological father," she said carefully. "A person whose DNA helped make you. But he's not part of our family. He left before you were born." "Why?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Sometimes people make choices we don't understand." Nora absorbed this with her characteristic seriousness. "Is he a bad person?" "I don't think so. I think he's a person who made a mistake." "Do you miss him?" Maya considered lying, decided against it. "Sometimes I miss who I thought he was. But I don't miss him, because I have you. And you're better than any dream I had about him." Nora nodded, apparently satisfied. Then, "Can I have more cereal?" And just like that, the crisis was over. For now. By the time Nora turned 7, their life had found a rhythm. Maya's photography business was small but steady. They weren't wealthy, but they were secure. They had routines and rituals and inside jokes that made their tiny apartment feel like a palace. Maya had long since stopped wondering about Daniel Crowe. The pendant stayed in its drawer. The past stayed in the past. She had no way of knowing that everything was about to change. Because Nora, brilliant and observant and braver than any adult, had noticed something Maya had been trying to hide. Her mother was sick. Really sick. And Nora, with a child's faith in direct action and adult resources, decided to fix it. If you're already feeling the weight of what Maya's carried alone for 7 years, hit that like button. And drop a comment. Have you ever had to do something hard completely alone? Tell me your story. Because what Nora does next is about to make you believe in the courage of children. Keep watching. Nora Archer was not a normal 7-year-old. She knew this because her teacher had said so at the last parent conference, though Mrs. Rodriguez had used the word exceptional, which Nora had looked up and decided was accurate. Normal 7-year-olds didn't maintain detailed budgets of household expenses. They didn't notice when their mother started sleeping more and eating less. They definitely didn't correlate the phone calls about medical bills with the worried lines that appeared on their mother's face. But Nora did. She'd been noticing for 3 months. Maya thought she was hiding it, but Nora was her mother's daughter, trained to observe, to see what others missed. The problem, Nora had determined through careful analysis, was money. Her mother needed medicine. Medicine cost money they didn't have. Her mother's pride prevented her from asking anyone for help. Therefore, Nora reasoned with 7-year-old logic, she would have to ask for help herself. The school library's computer became Nora's research station. While other kids played math games, she Googled richest people in New York City. Daniel Crowe's name appeared on multiple lists. She clicked through to his company's website, studying his photograph with the same intensity she brought to her homework. He didn't look mean. That was important. Mean people probably didn't help. His company did something called venture capital, which Nora didn't fully understand, but the philanthropic section mentioned grants for educational and medical causes. Perfect. She clicked on Contact and found an address. 432 Park Avenue, 56th floor. Nora opened a new document and began typing in careful, hunt and peck style. RSUME Nora Archer age. 7, almost 7.5. Skills. Can ride public bus independently. Excellent at organization. No 17 camera lenses by name. Can count money accurately. Very quiet during important conversations. Can make grilled cheese sandwiches. Good at explaining things. Reason for application. Need to help my mother who is sick and needs medicine. Am willing to work hard in exchange for assistance. She printed it at the library, the school printer adding cheerful stars to the margins, and folded it carefully into her backpack. Mom, I have something to do tomorrow, Nora said over dinner that night. Spaghetti, which was cheap and filled you up. What kind of something? Maya asked, twirling pasta around her fork with less energy than usual. An important thing. A mission. Maya smiled tiredly. A mission? Are you a spy now? Sort of. Can I go after school? I'll be back before dinner. Maya studied her daughter's serious face. Nora's missions were usually elaborate games, treasure hunts through the neighborhood, important deliveries to stuffed animals. The kind of imaginative play that made childhood magical. As long as you're safe and back by 5. I will be. I promise. That night, Nora laid out her church dress, the navy blue one with the white collar that made her look, she thought, very professional. She packed her backpack, the resume, a notebook, 3 pencils, and her emergency Metro card. She'd memorized the bus route. 2 transfers, 45 minutes total. She'd done practice runs in her head a dozen times. Tomorrow, she would fix everything. Daniel Crowe's Tuesday started like any other. 6 a.m. workout. 7 a.m. review of Asian market reports. 8 a.m. arrival at the office. Back-to-back meetings scheduled through 6 p.m. with precisely calculated breaks. He was reviewing acquisition targets when his assistant Rebecca buzzed in, her voice uncertain. Mr. Crowe, there's a situation at reception. What kind of situation? A child. She says she has an appointment with you. Daniel frowned. A child? Rebecca, I don't have any appointments with. I know, sir. But she's quite insistent. And security is, they're not sure how to handle it. How to handle what? A child. A very determined child. She has a resume. Despite his irritation, Daniel felt a spark of curiosity. Send her up. Sir, are you sure? 5 minutes. I'll see what this is about. He expected a teenager, maybe someone's daughter dropping off a school project. He did not expect the small girl who walked through his door with perfect posture and a backpack almost as big as she was. She couldn't have been more than 7. Dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, navy dress with a white collar, eyes that looked directly at him without fear or awe. Mr. Crow, she said, approaching his desk like she'd done this 100 times. Thank you for seeing me. I didn't exactly have a choice. You're quite persistent, I hear. Persistence is a virtue. My teacher says so. She set her backpack on the chair, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and slid it across his desk. My qualifications. Daniel looked at the paper, a child's careful printing surrounded by star stickers, and had to suppress a smile. Nora Archer, he read aloud. Age 7, almost 7.5. Accuracy is important. I can see that. He scanned the list. You know 17 camera lenses by name? My mother is a photographer. I'm her assistant. Ah. Daniel set down the resume. Nora, this is very impressive. But I'm confused about what you're doing here. The girl's professional demeanor cracked slightly. She took a breath, straightened her shoulders, and said in a rush, My mother is sick. She needs medicine we can't afford. She won't ask anyone for help because she's proud and independent, but I'm not too proud to ask because she matters more than pride. I researched charitable organizations and determined you're statistically most likely to help us. So I'm offering my services in exchange for assistance with medical expenses. The speech came out in one breathless declaration, practiced but genuine. Daniel felt something shift in his chest. Nora, that's very brave. But I can't hire a 7-year-old. There are laws. Then a grant. A sponsorship. Whatever you call it when rich people help. Her voice wobbled. Please, Mr. Crow. My mom is really sick and I don't know what else to do. Before Daniel could respond, she gestured, adjusting her backpack strap, and he saw it. The birthmark. Crescent-shaped, at the base of her left thumb. His stomach dropped. He looked at his own hand. The identical mark he'd had since birth. The one his mother used to kiss and call his moon mark. No. It couldn't be. Nora, he said, his voice suddenly unsteady. Your mother. What's her name? Maya Archer. She's a photographer. She's really talented, but she doesn't charge enough because she's too nice and, Nora's eyes widened. Do you know her? Know her. Rain on a terrace. A gazebo made of glass. A moon pendant he'd had specially commissioned. A woman who'd vanished from his life, or so he'd thought. How old are you? He asked, though he already knew. 7. I turn 7.5 next month. 7 years. The math aligned with terrifying precision. He'd met Maya 7.5 years ago. Spent one perfect evening with her. Given her the pendant. Then his assistant had told him Maya wasn't interested, had returned his messages through the company, asking to be left alone. He'd believed it. Moved on. Built his empire higher and emptier. And all this time, there'd been a child. His child. This fierce, brilliant girl who'd ridden the bus alone to save her mother. Mr. Crow. Nora's voice pulled him back. You look weird. Are you having a medical emergency? Should I call 911? I know how. I'm fine, he managed. Nora, I need you to answer something very honestly. Does your mother ever talk about your father? The girl's expression shuddered slightly. She says he left before I was born. That he made a mistake, but he's not a bad person, just someone who made a choice. Each word landed like a blow. He'd left. Not intentionally, but through negligence and poor communication and trusting people to handle what he should have handled himself. He had a daughter. This child sitting across from him with his eyes and his birthmark and his mother's courage was his daughter. And her mother, Maya, who'd captured truth with her camera and given him one perfect evening, was sick. Needed help. Had raised their daughter alone for 7 years while he'd built towers of glass and steel. "Nora," Daniel said, standing up. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "I'm going to help your mother. But first, I need to meet her. Can you take me to her?" The girl's face lit up with hope so bright it hurt to see. "Really? You'll help?" "I'll help. I promise." "Thank you, thank you, thank you." She bounced slightly, 7 years old again instead of a tiny adult. "Can we go now? I can show you how to take the bus." "We'll take my car." "You have a car? In the city? That's very expensive." Despite everything, Daniel laughed. "Yes, it is. Come on. Let's go." As they rode the elevator down, Nora chattering about bus routes and her mother's favorite camera and how she'd planned this mission for 3 weeks, Daniel felt his carefully constructed world crumbling. He had a daughter. Maya had raised her alone. And in approximately 20 minutes, he'd have to face the woman he'd thought had rejected him, and explain how he'd missed 7 years of their child's life. The elevator doors opened. Nora slipped her small hand into his, trusting and sure. "Don't worry," she said, reading his tension with unnerving accuracy. "My mom is nice. She won't yell." "Probably. That's not particularly reassuring." "I'm 7. Reassurance isn't my job. Honesty is." God help him, she was definitely his daughter. Daniel's driver, Marcus, who'd seen everything in 15 years of driving for billionaires, didn't even blink at the child in the back seat. "Where to, Mr. Crow?" Daniel looked at Nora. "Where do you live?" She rattled off an address in Brooklyn. Marcus nodded and pulled into traffic. Nora settled into the leather seat with interest. "This is nicer than the bus. The bus smells like someone's lunch, and sometimes there are mysterious wet spots." "I'll take your word for it." Daniel studied her profile, the stubborn set of her jaw, the way she observed everything with careful attention. "Nora, can I ask you something?" "You can ask anything. I might not answer, but you can ask." "Fair enough. How long has your mother been sick?" Nora's expression grew serious. "I noticed 3 months ago. She started getting tired all the time. And she stopped eating as much. And she had to lie down after carrying groceries up the stairs." "Did she see a doctor?" "Not at first. I heard her on the phone saying we couldn't afford it. But then she got worse and Mrs. Rodriguez, that's my teacher, she noticed Mom looked bad at parent conferences and made her promise to go to the clinic." "And what did the clinic say?" "I don't know exactly. Mom doesn't tell me everything because she thinks I'm just a kid." Nora's voice carried the indignation of the young and observant. "But I heard her crying in the bathroom. And I saw the bills. They had really big numbers." Daniel felt rage building, not at Maya, but at circumstances that had forced her to choose between healthcare and rent. At his own absence. At whatever miscommunication had led to this. "You're very brave," he said quietly. "Coming to find me." "I was scared," Nora admitted. "The bus was scary. And the security guard was scary. And you were scary at first. You're very tall and serious looking." "I'm scary." "You have a scary face. Like you're thinking about important things and people shouldn't interrupt. Mom has that face when she's editing photos." Daniel tried to imagine Maya editing, lost in her work the way he lost himself in deals. "Tell me about her." "Your mom." Nora's face brightened. "She's the best. She makes up stories about the people in her photographs. And she lets me help organize all her equipment. And she never lies to me, even when the truth is hard." And she works really hard so we can have enough food, and she never complains even though I know she's tired. Each sentence added weight to the guilt Daniel felt. She sounds remarkable. She is. That's why I had to help her. She always helps me, so it's my turn. They drove in silence for a moment. Then Nora asked, "Mr. Crow, do you like my mom?" The question caught him off guard. I knew her. A long time ago. But did you like her? Very much. Then why did you leave? There it was. The question he'd have to answer. To Maya. To this child. To himself. I didn't mean to, he said carefully. There was a miscommunication. A mistake. I thought she didn't want to hear from me. That's dumb. Mom always wants to hear from people. She's really friendly. I see that now. Nora studied him with unsettling perception. Are you going to leave again? No. The word came out firm, certain. I'm not going anywhere. Good. Because Mom needs help and I need... She stopped. You need what? Nothing. Never mind. But Daniel understood. This child who'd ridden the bus alone, who'd walked into a stranger's office with a handmade resume, who'd been brave beyond measure, she needed to know she wasn't alone anymore. Nora, whatever happens between your mother and me, I want you to know something. What you did today was incredibly brave. And no matter what, I'm going to make sure your mother gets the help she needs. That's a promise. Nora's eyes filled with tears. She blinked back rapidly. Do you promise? Or just regular promise? Promise. The kind you can't break. Okay. She wiped her eyes. We're almost there. It's the brown building with the green door. Mom painted it green because she said our building should have color even if we can't afford much else. The car pulled up to a walk-up that had seen better decades. The green door was cheerful but peeling. Laundry hung from fire escapes. The smell of a dozen different dinners mixed in the air. Daniel stepped out of the car, looking up at the building where Maya had raised their daughter, and felt the full weight of what he'd missed. 7 years. 7 birthdays. First steps and first words and first days of school. The elevator is broken, Nora said matter-of-factly. It's always broken. We take the stairs. It's 7 floors, but you get used to it. Lead the way. As they climbed, Nora chattering about each floor's residents, Daniel's guilt growing with each step, he prepared himself for the conversation ahead. But nothing could have prepared him for Maya opening the door. The apartment door swung open before Nora could reach for her key. Maya stood there, face pale, eyes wild with the specific terror of a mother whose child has been missing. Nora Marie Archer, where have you? She stopped. Her eyes moved from Nora to the man standing behind her, and all the color drained from her face. Mom, Nora said brightly, oblivious to the tension. I found help. This is Mr. Crow. He's going to... inside. Now. Maya's voice was controlled, but her hands were shaking. But Mom. Now, Nora. Nora scurried past her mother. Daniel stood frozen on the landing. 7 flights suddenly feeling like 7 miles. Maya, he said. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't say my name like you know me. I do know you. You knew me. 7 years ago. For approximately 6 hours. Then you vanished. Her voice was ice. What are you doing here? Before Daniel could answer, Nora poked her head around her mother's hip. I went to his office, Mom. I asked him to help with the medicine and he said yes, and we took his car. It's really nice, it has heated seats, and he promised to help us. Maya's eyes snapped to her daughter. You did what? I took the bus to Manhattan and went to his office because you need medicine and we can't afford it and you're too proud to ask for help, but I'm not, so I asked and... You took the bus? Alone. Maya's professional calm shattered. Nora, you're 7 years old. You could have been... anything could have happened. But nothing did happen. I was very careful. I had a plan. A plan? You had... Maya stopped, pressing her fingers to her temples. We're not discussing this in the hallway. Both of you, inside. She stepped back, holding the door open. Daniel entered the small apartment, immediately cataloging details. Photographs covering every wall, camera equipment neatly organized on shelves, a couch that doubled as a workspace, a tiny kitchen that smelled like basil and old coffee. It was cramped and cluttered and so clearly lived in that it made his sterile penthouse feel like a mausoleum. Nora, your room. We'll talk about this later. But I want to. Room. Now. Nora recognized the tone. She trudged to a small bedroom, casting one worried look back before closing the door. Maya and Daniel stood in the sudden silence, 7 years and 1,000 questions between them. How did you find me? Maya asked finally. I didn't. She found me. Nora. Daniel gestured toward the closed bedroom door. She walked into my office this morning with a resume written in marker and asked me to help you. Maya's hand went to her mouth. Oh God. I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was planning. Don't apologize. She's extraordinary. She's 7 and she rode the bus to Manhattan alone. And got past security at one of the most fortified buildings in the city, convinced my assistant to let her in, and made a pitch that would put most of my executives to shame. Daniel's voice softened. She's remarkable, Maya. She's brave and brilliant, and she loves you so much she was willing to do something terrifying to help you. Maya's eyes filled with tears she wouldn't let fall. She shouldn't have had to. No. She shouldn't have. Daniel took a step closer. Maya, why didn't you tell me? Tell you. Maya's laugh was bitter. Tell you how. Your number was disconnected. Your company wouldn't put me through. I tried. Daniel. 4 weeks, I tried. That's impossible. I told Rebecca, my assistant, to make sure any messages from you got to me immediately. Well, she failed spectacularly at her job. Daniel's mind raced back 7 years. Rebecca had left the company 6 months after the gala. He'd barely noticed, too consumed with an acquisition that had taken over his life. What did you try to tell me? Maya gestured around the apartment. What do you think? That I was pregnant. That you were going to be a father. That I needed to know if you wanted to be involved. And when I didn't respond, I assumed you'd made your choice. That the man from the gala was just playing a part. That the pendant meant nothing. The pendant. Daniel's eyes scanned the room and found it, in a small wooden box on a bookshelf, visible through the open lid. She'd kept it. Even thinking he'd abandoned her, she'd kept it. Maya, I sent messages. I tried calling. Rebecca told me you'd asked to be left alone. Maya stared at him. She told you what? That you'd sent a message through the company. That you weren't interested in seeing me again. That I should respect your privacy. That's a lie. I never. Maya stopped, understanding dawning. Your assistant. She lied to both of us. Apparently. Daniel felt rage building. I don't know why. I don't know what she had to gain. But Maya, I swear to you, I never meant to disappear. I thought you didn't want to hear from me. And I thought you'd used me and moved on. They stood there, the truth settling between them like shattered glass, sharp and painful and impossible to step around. 7 years, Maya said quietly. 7 years of thinking you didn't care. Of raising her alone. Of making every decision by myself. I'm sorry. God, Maya, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 7 years. I know. But I'm here now. Let me help. We don't need your charity. It's not charity. She's my daughter. The words hung in the air, finally spoken aloud. Maya's composure cracked. You don't know that. Daniel held up his left hand, showing the birthmark at the base of his thumb. She has this. Exactly this. My mother called it a moon mark. It runs in families. Maya looked at his hand, then at her daughter's closed door, and the last of her defenses crumbled. Yes, she whispered. She's yours. The bedroom door cracked open. Nora's face appeared in the gap. Are you two done yelling? Because I have questions. Despite everything, Maya laughed, exhausted and overwhelmed but still capable of finding humor in her daughter's terrible timing. We're not yelling anymore. Come out. Nora emerged, walking straight to Daniel with her characteristic directness. Are you my dad? Daniel knelt down to her level, this child, his child, who'd been brave enough to find him when both adults had failed. Yes, he said. I am. Did you know about me? No. But I wish I had. I would have been here from the beginning if I'd known. Nora studied his face with unnerving intensity. Are you going to leave again? Never. I promise. Mom says adults break promises sometimes. Your mother is very wise. But this is one I won't break. Nora seemed to consider this. Then, okay. Can you help with the medicine now? Maya made a sound between a laugh and a sob. Nora, sweetie, it's more complicated than... Why? Nora turned to her mother. He said he'd help. You need help. I don't understand why adults make simple things complicated. Because life is complicated, baby. Life is only complicated if you let it be. Nora crossed her arms. You're sick. He has money. Money pays for medicine. This is basic logic. Daniel caught Maya's eye over their daughter's head. She makes a compelling argument. She's 7. She's also right. Maya sank onto the couch, all the fight going out of her. I can't afford to owe you. You don't owe me. I owe you. Daniel sat beside her, careful to maintain distance. 7 years, Maya. 7 years you did this alone. Let me help, please. And then what? You write a check and disappear back to your life. No. Then I become part of her life. Your life, if you'll let me. I don't know how to be a father. I don't know how to do any of this. But I want to learn. Nora climbed onto the couch between them. See, Mom? He wants to help and he wants to be my dad. This is called a win-win situation. When did you become a negotiator? Maya asked. I've always been a negotiator. You just never noticed because I'm small. Despite the tension, the impossibility, the sheer overwhelming nature of the situation, Maya found herself smiling. Her daughter had walked into a billionaire's office with a handmade resume. Had brought him back here. Had, in her own chaotic 7-year-old way, fixed what 2 adults had broken. Okay, Maya said quietly. Okay. We can talk about this. About all of this. But Nora, you are in so much trouble for taking the bus alone. Am I grounded? So grounded. Can I still have pancakes for dinner? Yes. Then I accept my punishment. Daniel watched this exchange, this glimpse into their life, their routines, their inside jokes, and felt the full weight of what he'd missed. But also, maybe, what he could still build. Over pancakes, which Nora insisted Daniel needed to try because Mom makes the best ones in Brooklyn, they talked logistics. Tell me about your diagnosis, Daniel said. Maya hesitated, glancing at Nora. She knows, Nora said matter-of-factly. She has an autoimmune condition that's attacking her organs. The doctor said it's treatable, but the medication is expensive and our insurance doesn't cover it because it's experimental, which I think is stupid because if it works it should be covered. Daniel blinked. That's very well informed. I'm very smart. Everyone says so. Nora, eat your pancakes, Maya said, but her voice was fond. Daniel, I don't expect you to. What's the medication called? Maya told him. Daniel pulled out his phone and started typing. What are you doing? Calling my doctor. Well, texting him. It's late. Daniel, you can't just. I can. And I am. He looked up from his phone. Dr. Harrison is one of the best immunologists in the country. He's at Memorial. I'm setting up a consultation. I can't afford memorial. I can. I don't want your charity. Daniel set down his phone and looked at her directly. Maya, this isn't charity. This is me taking responsibility. This is me trying to make up for 7 years of absence. This is me making sure my daughter doesn't lose her mother. The words hit hard. Maya's eyes filled with tears again. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. I know. But you don't have to be scared alone anymore. Nora reached over and took both their hands, creating a small chain across the table. See? We're a team now. Teams help each other. Daniel looked at this child, his child, and felt his heart crack open in ways he'd spent years protecting against. Yeah, he said, squeezing her small hand. We're a team. If you're feeling the weight of this moment, this family forming from broken pieces, hit that like button right now. And comment, what would you do in Maya's position? Trust him or protect yourself? Because what happens next tests them in ways none of them are ready for. The consultation at Memorial happened 3 days later. Daniel picked them up in his car, Nora chattering excitedly about the heated seats while Maya sat rigid with anxiety. It's going to be okay, Daniel said quietly. You don't know that. No. But I'm choosing to believe it anyway. Dr. Harrison was exactly what Daniel had promised. Thorough, kind, and optimistic about treatment options. This is manageable, he said after the examination. The medication is expensive, yes, but it's highly effective. I'm seeing excellent response rates. How expensive? Maya asked. Dr. Harrison named a figure that made her face go white. We'll handle it, Daniel said immediately. Mr. Crow, I appreciate. We'll handle it, he repeated more firmly. What's the treatment protocol? As Dr. Harrison explained, weekly infusions, monitoring, potential side effects, Daniel took notes on his phone. Asked questions. Made Maya promise to ask her own questions. Nora sat in a chair, swinging her legs, drawing in a notebook Daniel had brought her. What are you drawing? Daniel asked during a break. The 3 of us. As a team. She held up the picture, 3 stick figures holding hands. You're the tall one. Mom's the medium one. I'm the small but mighty one. Small but mighty, Daniel repeated. I like that. It's accurate. Nora went back to coloring. Mr. Crow, can I call you something else? Mr. Crow is very formal. Daniel's breath caught. What would you like to call me? I don't know. What do other kids call their dads? Dad, usually. Or Papa. Or Father if they're fancy. Are you fancy? Sometimes. Then I'll call you Daniel until I decide if you deserve Dad. Maya made a choked sound. Daniel smiled despite the ache in his chest. That's fair. I'll have to earn it. Yes, you will. Nora returned to her drawing with complete focus. Later in the car, Maya said quietly, You don't have to do this. Do what? Be her father. I know this is overwhelming and unexpected and… Maya. Daniel's voice was firm. She's my daughter. That's not negotiable. The only question is whether you'll let me be part of her life. And what about my life? That's up to you. I'll respect whatever boundaries you set. But Maya, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to show up. I'm going to help. I'm going to learn how to braid hair and what cereal she likes and which camera lens is which. Despite herself, Maya laughed. You're going to learn camera lenses? I'm going to try. I'll probably fail, but I'll try. From the back seat, Nora said, the 50 millimeters is for portraits. The 85 millimeters is for headshots. The 24 millimeters is for landscapes. Want me to keep going? Please do, Daniel said. I'm taking mental notes. As Nora rattled off specifications, Maya watched Daniel actually listen, not humoring a child, but genuinely trying to learn her world. Maybe, she thought, maybe this could work. The next few weeks were an education for everyone. Daniel learned that 7-year-olds had very specific opinions about breakfast cereal, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, never Cheerios. That braiding required 3 sections, not 2. He tried with 2 and created what Nora called abstract hair art. And that school presentations required parental attendance with no exceptions. "You have to come," Nora insisted. "It's about my family and your family now. I have a board meeting." "Which is more important, board meeting or your daughter?" Daniel rescheduled the board meeting. At the presentation, Nora stood in front of her second-grade class with a poster board covered in photographs. "This is my family," she announced. "I have my mom, who's a photographer and the best person in the world. And I have my dad, who I just met but he's learning. He's not good at braiding yet, but he tries hard." The class giggled. Daniel, sitting next to Maya in a tiny chair meant for children, felt his face flush. "My mom raised me by herself for 7 years because there was a miscommunication and my dad didn't know I existed. But now he knows and he's helping my mom get medicine and he's learning about cameras even though he works in finance, which is boring." More giggles. The teacher was trying not to laugh. The most important thing about family is that they help each other and they show up and they don't give up even when things are hard. My family does all of those things. The end. Nora sat down to enthusiastic applause. Daniel's eyes were suspiciously bright. "She's amazing," he whispered to Maya. "I know. You did that. You raised her to be that confident and articulate and good. We're doing it now. Together." It was the first time Maya had acknowledged him as a co-parent. Daniel felt something settle in his chest, not quite forgiveness, but the beginning of partnership. The first time Nora called him Dad was by accident. They were at the park, Nora on the swings, Daniel pushing her higher. "Higher, Dad. I want to touch the sky." She didn't notice what she'd said. But Daniel did. He stopped pushing, his throat tight. "Did I do something wrong?" Nora asked, looking back at him. "No. You did something very right." "Then why did you stop pushing?" "Because I needed a moment to appreciate what you just said." Nora thought about this. "I called you Dad, didn't I?" "You did. Is that okay?" "It's more than okay. It's perfect." "Good. Because Daniel is too many syllables, and Mr. Crow sounds like we're in a business meeting." "Higher, please." Daniel resumed pushing, his vision blurry with tears he'd never let fall in a boardroom but couldn't hold back in this moment. Maya, watching from a bench, pulled out her camera and captured it. A man learning to be a father, a child learning to trust, and the swing between them carrying them both forward. 3 months into treatment, Maya's numbers were improving. The medication was working. The exhaustion was lifting. She was, the doctors said cautiously, responding well. To celebrate, Daniel suggested dinner. "Somewhere nice." "I can't afford nice," Maya said automatically. "My treat. Please. You're doing so well. Let me celebrate with you." They left Nora with Elena, Maya's sister, who gave Daniel a look that clearly said, "Hurt her and I will destroy you," while saying aloud, "Have a nice time." Daniel took her to a restaurant in Manhattan, upscale but not stuffy, with a terrace that looked out over the city. It was the first time they'd been alone together since the gazebo 7 years ago. "This is surreal," Maya said over wine she was allowed to have again. 3 months ago I couldn't afford my medication. Now I'm at a restaurant with white tablecloths. 3 months ago I didn't know I had a daughter. Now I'm learning to French braid. How's that going?" "Terribly. Nora says I'm improving, but I think she's being kind." Maya laughed. It was the first real laugh he'd heard from her, unguarded and genuine. "I've missed that sound," Daniel said. "What sound?" "Your laugh. From the gala. You laughed at something, and I remember thinking I wanted to make you laugh like that again." Maya's smile softened. "I remember thinking you were too good to be true. Too perfect." "I'm not perfect. I think we've thoroughly established that." "No. But you're trying. That counts for more than perfect." They talked through dinner, about Nora, yes, but also about photography and business and the strange paths life takes when you're not looking. After they walked, Daniel wasn't ready for the evening to end, and Maya seemed content to wander. They found themselves at a small park with a gazebo, not the one from the gala, but close enough to spark memory. "Rain's coming," Maya observed, looking at the sky. "Should we run? Or we could wait it out. Under there." She nodded toward the gazebo. They stepped inside just as the first drops fell, the moment so perfectly echoing their first meeting that both of them felt it. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. "For all of it. The miscommunication. The years you were alone. The fact that Nora had to be the brave one. I'm sorry too. For not trying harder to find you. For assuming the worst. You had every reason to assume the worst. And you've given me every reason to reconsider." Maya turned to face him. "This is scary, Daniel. Letting you in. Trusting you with her. With me. I know. But Maya, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to show up. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Why? You didn't ask for this. You could write a check and walk away, and technically you'd be doing more than required. Because she's mine. Because you're—" He stopped. "I'm what? You're the one who got away. The possibility I thought I'd lost. And now you're back, and I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm asking for one anyway." The rain drummed on the roof. The city lights blurred beyond the glass. Maya looked at this man who disappeared and returned, who was learning to braid and memorize camera lenses and show up to second-grade presentations. "One chance," she said. "Don't waste it." Daniel reached for her hand, slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. "I won't." 2 months later, everything went wrong. Maya collapsed during a photo shoot. One moment she was adjusting a light, the next she was on the floor, her assistant screaming for 911. Daniel got the call at work. He was in the car before his assistant finished explaining, his heart in his throat, every worst-case scenario playing in his head. At the hospital, he found Nora in the waiting room with Elena, the child's face streaked with tears. "Where's your mom?" "They took her back. They said she had an infection from the medicine and her fever is really high and—" Nora's voice broke. "Is she going to die?" Daniel pulled her into his arms, this child who'd been so brave for so long, finally letting herself be scared. "No. No, she's not going to die. The doctors here are the best. They're going to help her. You don't know that." "You're right. I don't. But I believe it. And we're going to stay here and believe it together." Elena watched this exchange, seeing Daniel hold her niece with a protectiveness that was visceral and new. "I'll get coffee," she said quietly, giving them space. Daniel sat with Nora in his lap, this child who'd brought him back into a life he didn't know he was missing, and made promises he had no business making but meant with every fiber of his being. "If something happens to Mom," Nora whispered, "will you keep me?" "Nothing's happening to your mom. But if it does, then yes. Always. Forever. You're mine, Nora. That doesn't change regardless of what happens. Promise. Promise, promise. The unbreakable kind." Nora clung to him, and Daniel realized with stunning clarity that he'd do anything, anything, to protect this child. Would burn his company to the ground if it meant keeping her safe. The hours crawled. Dr. Harrison came out twice with updates. Sepsis, ICU, critical but stable. Daniel made calls. Arranged for the best infectious disease specialists. Spoke to lawyers about guardianship papers. If something happened to Maya, Nora would be his legally, no question. At 3 a.m., they finally let him see her. Maya was unconscious, hooked to machines, looking smaller than he'd ever seen her. Daniel sat beside her bed, took her hand carefully around the fore, and spoke quietly. "You need to wake up. Nora needs you. I need you. You don't get to leave now, not when we're finally figuring this out. So wake up, Maya. Please." 3 days later, she did. Her eyes opened slowly, focusing on the ceiling, then on Daniel asleep in a chair beside her bed. You stayed, she whispered, her voice rough from intubation. Daniel jerked awake. You're awake. Oh, thank God, you're awake. Let me get the nurse. Wait. She caught his hand weakly. How long? 3 days. You had sepsis. It was bad, Maya. Really bad. Nora is fine. She's with Elena. I wouldn't let her see you like this, but I took videos of you breathing so she'd know you were alive. She made me show her twice a day. Tears slid down Maya's temples. You took care of her. Of course I did. She's my daughter. For 3 days? On your own. Maya, I'd take care of her for the rest of my life if you'd let me. You scared me. You can't. His voice broke. You can't do that again. I'll try not to schedule any more septic infections. That's not funny. It's a little funny. Daniel laughed despite himself, despite the fear that still had his heart racing. I love you, he said, the word surprising them both. I know that's ridiculous. I know we barely know each other anymore. But I love you. I loved you 7 years ago, and I love you now, and I'm not interested in pretending otherwise. Maya stared at him. Daniel. You don't have to say it back. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know. In case. He couldn't finish the sentence. In case I died. Don't. Daniel, I have an autoimmune disease. This is going to be my life. Infections. Hospitalizations. Risk. Then it's my life too. Ours. Nora's and mine. We're in this together. Maya studied his face, exhausted, unshaven, wearing the same suit he'd had on 3 days ago. You really stayed the whole time. Where else would I be? Your company. Your life. This is my life. You and Nora. Nothing else comes close. Maya squeezed his hand with what little strength she had. I love you too. I think I never stopped. Daniel leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers carefully, mindful of tubes and wires. Then marry me. What? Not now. Later. When you're better. But marry me, Maya. Let me be your family officially. Let me be there for all of it. The good, the bad, the terrifying. Marry me. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. It's the only proposal I've got. Ask me again when I'm not in a hospital bed. Is that a maybe? It's a ask me when I can say yes without an 4 in my arm. I'll take it. 6 months later, Maya was in remission. Strong. Healthy. Back to work full-time. Her photography business had grown, partially because Daniel had invested. She'd insisted on official paperwork, terms, interest rates. Partially because her brush with death had sharpened her artistic eye. She was shooting a series on ordinary moments made extraordinary. Parents at playgrounds, couples at diners, life as it actually was rather than how it posed. One evening, Daniel picked her and Nora up from the studio. Instead of heading home, he drove to a park in Brooklyn. What are we doing? Maya asked. You'll see. The park had a small gazebo. Not the fancy one from the gala. Not the one in Manhattan. Just a simple wooden structure where, apparently, Daniel had spent the afternoon setting up fairy lights and bringing coffee from Maya's favorite cafe. Daniel, what? Mom, look. Nora was already running toward the gazebo, where photographs hung from the lights, pictures Maya had taken over the past months. Her work, displayed like art. I contacted the gallery, Daniel said. They want to show these. A whole exhibition. Maya's hand went to her mouth. Daniel. But first, I have a question to ask you. Properly this time. He knelt down in the gazebo where soft lights turned the evening golden, where rain wasn't falling but the memory of it hung in the air. Nora stood beside him, grinning like she'd known this was coming. Maya Archer, 7 years ago you captured my picture and somehow captured me along with it. Then I lost you through stupidity and miscommunication and pride. But your daughter, our daughter, was brave enough to find me again. To give me a second chance I didn't deserve. He pulled out a ring, a simple silver band with a tiny camera lens set into it, custom-made and perfect. I'm not asking you to forget the 7 years I missed. I'm asking you to let me earn the next 70. Marry me. Build this life with me. Let me be the person who shows up, who stays, who loves you on purpose every single day. Maya was crying. That's a much better proposal. I've had time to practice. The answer is yes. Yeah. Yeah. She laughed through tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Nora cheered. Finally. I've been keeping this secret for 2 weeks. Do you know how hard that is when you're 7? You knew. Maya looked at her daughter. He asked my permission first. Because I'm part of this family too. Nora crossed her arms. I said yes, but only if he promised to keep practicing braiding because he's still not very good. Daniel slipped the ring on Maya's finger, then pulled both of them into an embrace. I promise to practice braiding. And show up to school events. And show up to school events. And learn all the camera lenses. I'm still working on that one. He knows 6 out of 17, Nora told her mother. It's progress. Maya kissed Daniel, soft and sure and full of promise. Around them, her photograph swayed in the evening breeze, images of life as it was, messy and beautiful and real. I love you, she said. I love you too. Both of you. Good, Nora said. Because we're a team and teams love each other. Can we get ice cream now? They got ice cream. If you just got emotional over that proposal, hit that like button. And comment, what's the best proposal you've ever witnessed? Drop it below. Subscribe to Dr. Mason Long Stories because we're about to wrap this up and the ending. It's going to remind you why second chances are worth fighting for. 5 years later. The gallery opening was packed. Maya's exhibition, Light and Shadow, a collection, feature her work from the past 5 years. Candid moments of real life, portraits that captured truth, landscapes of Brooklyn she'd photographed while walking Nora to school. The centerpiece was a large print of the gazebo where Daniel had proposed, lit by fairy lights and memory. This is remarkable, a critic told her. You have an eye for seeing the sacred in the mundane. Thank you. Maya smiled, accepting the compliment with the grace she'd learned. Confidence without arrogance, pride without performance. Across the room, Daniel stood with Nora, now 12, discussing the photographs with genuine interest. This one is my favorite, Nora said, pointing to an image of a woman and child at a kitchen table, morning light streaming through the window. You can see the love in the ordinary moment. When did you get so wise about art? Daniel asked. I've always been wise about art. You just didn't know me until I was 7. Fair point. They'd settled into family life with the kind of ease that comes from choosing it daily. Daniel had restructured his company to allow for actual work-life balance. Maya's business had grown. She now employed 3 other photographers and had a studio space in Dumbo. Nora was thriving, top of her class, captain of the debate team, already talking about colleges with the kind of precise planning that made both parents smile. She's going to run a company someday, Maya had said recently. Or a country, Daniel had replied. I'd vote for her. The wedding had been small, just family and close friends, in a garden in Brooklyn, with Nora as maid of honor wearing a dress she'd picked out herself. Do I get to give you away? She'd asked Maya before the ceremony. You brought us together. I think that counts. They'd built a life that felt real, not perfect, but authentic. Fights about whose turn it was to do dishes. Negotiations about Nora's screen time. Date nights that sometimes got interrupted by work calls. The ordinary chaos of being a family. But also, Sunday morning pancakes. Nora's photography club that Daniel helped run despite still only knowing 8 out of 17 lenses. Maya's studio where Daniel had learned to be quiet and watch her work. Family game nights where Nora dominated at strategy games with ruthless efficiency. She gets that from you, Maya always said. The ruthlessness or the efficiency? Both. Now, watching Maya work the gallery crowd, confident, talented, seen, Daniel felt gratitude so profound it hurt. 7 years ago, he'd met a photographer at a gala, lost her through stupidity, and been found again by a 7-year-old with a handmade resume and more courage than any adult he'd ever met. Nora appeared at his elbow. "Stop staring at Mom. It's weird. I'm admiring her work. You're being sappy. There's a difference. When did you become a cynic?" "I'm not a cynic. I'm a realist. There's a difference." She grinned up at him. "But I'm glad you're sappy about her. It means you really love her." "I really do." "Good. Because if you hurt her, I have a very detailed plan for revenge that involves public humiliation and possibly identity theft." "You're 12. I'm 12 and well-connected. Don't test me." Daniel laughed, pulling her into a side hug. "How did I end up with the scariest kid in New York?" "Genetics. You gave me the strategic mind. Mom gave me the ability to see what people try to hide. Combined, I'm unstoppable. Terrifying." "Thank you." Maya joined them, flushed with success and champagne. "What are you two plotting?" "Nothing," they said in unison, then looked at each other and laughed. "You're definitely related," Maya said, shaking her head. "Come on. People want to meet the family." As they moved through the gallery, Daniel's hand in Maya's, Nora walking beside them with perfect confidence, Daniel thought about the sentence that had changed everything. "My mother is sick. She needs medicine. I can help." 6 words from a 7-year-old that had cut deeper than any business deal, any success, any achievement. Because they'd been true. Because they'd been brave. Because they'd been exactly what all of them needed to hear. A week after the gallery opening, they drove upstate to a cabin Daniel had bought, a place to escape the city, to be quiet, to be a family without performance. Nora sat by the pond, arranging pebbles in careful rows, organizing them by size and color with the same focus she'd brought to every task since she was 3. "What are you doing?" Maya asked, sitting beside her. "Making order out of chaos." Nora placed a particularly smooth stone in the center. "Everything has a place if you look hard enough." Daniel joined them, settling on Nora's other side. "Including us?" he asked. Nora looked up at both her parents, the woman who'd raised her alone, the man who'd learned to be her father. "Especially us," she said. "You both needed me. But we all fixed things together." Maya and Daniel exchanged looks over her head. "You're very wise," Maya said. "I know. It's exhausting being this insightful at 12. "Oh, I'm sorry," Daniel said, trying not to laugh. "Is being wise too much responsibility?" "Yes. But someone has to do it." Nora stood up, brushing dirt from her jeans. "I'm going to explore. Don't do anything embarrassing while I'm gone." She wandered off toward the trees, confident in the safety of having parents who would always be there. Maya leaned against Daniel's shoulder. "She's something else. She's extraordinary. You raised an extraordinary human. We're raising her." Present tense. "Yeah." Daniel kissed the top of her head. "We are." They sat by the pond as the sun set, watching their daughter explore, and Daniel thought about the journey that had brought them here. A rainy night at a gala. A miscommunication that stole years. A 7-year-old on a bus with a handmade resume. A sentence that cut through everything. "I can help." Sometimes the deepest cuts were the ones that healed. Sometimes children were braver than adults. Sometimes second chances came from the smallest hands. And sometimes love was just showing up. Every day. Even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. So here's what Nora's story teaches us, and I need you to really hear this. Children see what adults refuse to acknowledge. Nora saw that her mother needed help. She saw that help existed. She saw that pride was preventing the ask. So she asked. With a handmade resume and a 7-year-old's faith that the world could be fixed if you just explained the problem logically. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage. Maya couldn't ask. She'd been strong for so long that needing anyone felt like failure. But Nora understood something adults forget. We're not meant to do life alone. Help isn't charity. It's community. It's family. It's love in action. Miscommunication steals years. Daniel and Maya lost 7 years because of an assistant's lie and their own pride. 7 years. 7 birthdays. First steps and first words and first days of school. Gone because neither of them fought hard enough through the static. Don't let miscommunication rob you of time. Fight for clarity. Ask the hard questions. Make the uncomfortable calls. Because years lost are years you never get back. Second chances require showing up. Daniel didn't earn his second chance by writing a check. He earned it by learning to braid. By memorizing camera lenses. By showing up to second-grade presentations and sitting in tiny chairs. By being there, consistently, reliably, daily. Second chances aren't given. They're earned through the unglamorous work of being present. Sometimes the smallest people carry the biggest truth. My mother is sick. She needs medicine. I can help. That sentence, delivered by a 7-year-old in a boardroom, cut deeper than any business proposal. Because it was true. Because it was vulnerable. Because it asked without shame. Nora understood what adults forget. Shame has no place in survival. Pride has no place in love. Sometimes you just need to knock on a door and say, help. Family is built, not just born. Daniel didn't become Nora's father when he discovered her existence. He became her father when he learned to braid her hair badly and loved her anyway. When he chose her over board meetings. When he promised to stay and then proved it through action. Family isn't biology. It's choice, repeated daily, until it becomes as natural as breathing. Now, before you go, I need something from you. Hit that like button if this story moved you. Not later. Right now. Because stories like this need to reach people who've forgotten that asking for help is brave. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the bravest thing you've ever asked for? Or what's the bravest thing you need to ask for? Be honest. This community is safe. I'm reading every comment. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's too proud to ask for help. Someone who thinks they have to do everything alone. Someone who forgot that second chances exist if you're willing to earn them. And subscribe to Dr. Mason Long Stories because every week we tell tales about courage that comes from unexpected places. About families built from broken pieces. About love that's earned through showing up. This is Dr. Mason, and I'll leave you with Nora's wisdom. You both needed me. But we all fix things together. That's the truth, isn't it? We all need each other. We all have strengths the other lacks. We all have cracks the other can fill. Nobody fixes anything alone. Not really. We pretend we do because we're proud or scared or stubborn. But the truth? The truth is that 7-year-old with a handmade resume got it right. Sometimes you just need to walk through the door, slide your truth across the desk, and say, I can help. Not, you owe me. Not, I'm entitled to this. Just, I can help. Will you let me? That's the sentence that changes lives. That's the cut that heals instead of wounds. Maya learned to accept help. Daniel learned to give it without conditions. Nora learned that being brave sometimes just means taking the bus to Manhattan with a resume written in marker. And together, they built something that none of them could have built alone. So here's my challenge to you. What do you need help with? Who do you need to ask? What truth do you need to slide across someone's desk? Do it. Be brave like Nora. Be vulnerable like Maya. Be willing to earn it like Daniel. Because life is too short to waste 7 years on miscommunication. Too precious to lose to pride. Too beautiful to experience alone. Ask for help. Offer help. Accept help. Build something together. That's how families form. That's how second chances happen. That's how love, real love, earned love, actually works. Until next time, remember, the deepest cuts are often the ones that heal. And sometimes the smallest voices carry the truest words. Choose courage over pride. Choose vulnerability over performance. Choose showing up over looking perfect. And if you're ever in doubt, remember Nora's wisdom: we all fix things together. This is Dr. Mason Long's stories. Now go be brave. Go ask for help. Go build something beautiful from broken pieces. I'll see you in the next story.